Hi friends, welcome to my January/February reading wrap up. This is where I'm going to discuss all the books that I read in both January and February, if I liked them, if I recommend them, what I rated them, what they're all about, and I am so excited to share these books with you. I read 12 books so far. I am working on my 13th book right now, but I think I will finish it by the end of February. Today is February 26th that I'm filming this, so I still have 2 more days and I'm almost finished with the book, so we'll talk about it in this video. So yeah, 13 books to discuss and I cannot wait to share them with you guys. I'm gonna go genre by genre instead of like the order that I read them in, just because I think it's a little bit easier for you guys to kind of pick and choose which genres you want to hear about. So I will put them all right here of each genre and you can scroll through those timestamps and see what genres you want to hear about the books that I read. And without further ado, let's get into it. I think the first genre that I'm going to start with is thriller, because that is the first book that I finished in 2026, which is very strange for me because that would never be a thing in the past, because thrillers usually aren't my favorite genre, but I'm definitely trying to get into them. But the first book that I read was A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, and this book I ended up rating 3.5 stars. I guess I would recommend it. I also wouldn't recommend it. If you are not a big thriller person like me, I don't think that you will really enjoy this book too much. I was a little disappointed in how it ended. I've now read 2 Kate Alice Marshall books. Like both of them, I was like following along what's happening and I was really excited to get to the end, and then the end of the both of them were just kind of a letdown. I also read What Lies in the Woods by her a few years ago and it was okay. And this one was also just okay. So essentially A Killing Cold follows this woman, and she just recently got engaged to this man, and they've only known each other for 6 months, and that's how long they've been dating. But she gets engaged to him. He's very rich, he's very charming, and he invites her on his like family vacation in the mountains. It's like this family retreat that they do often. And she keeps getting these text messages saying, don't go with him, don't marry him, he's dangerous. And she, does go with him and goes to these mountains. And right away, she gets this very eerie feeling that she has been here before. And she gets herself into a lot of trouble along the way with these like very rich people. And it was very interesting and very suspenseful as it went on. But then, like I said, the ending was a little disappointing. So I gave it 3.5 stars because I was very intrigued, but the ending was just a bit of a letdown. So the next thriller that I read was What We Did to Survive by Megan Lally. This is a YA thriller, and I had this as an ARC from NetGalley, so thank you to NetGalley for giving it to me. And this book officially comes out on March 31st, 2026, so you'll have it within the next month. And I actually really enjoyed this one. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I have read another Megan Lally book in the past and rated it 4 stars, which was That's Not My Name, and I loved that book so much, so I knew I had to get the ARC for What We Did to Survive. And this book follows 4 teenagers who go on this boat. They're on vacation, and they go on this kind of like sketchy boat that really shouldn't be out on the water because a big storm is coming. Basically, the storm kind of washes them away, and a lot of really sketchy things happen. A lot of secrets come out, and it just was very suspenseful. I could not put it down. It was such a quick read, and something about Megan Lally that she loves to do is just rip your heart out in the end, and you get very attached to these characters, which is something that I really struggle with when I am reading a thriller, is that I don't feel as attached to the characters as I want to be. And Megan Lally does an incredible job of that. I don't know if it's because it's a YA and so like they make the characters more relatable. I don't know. I really liked it, and I definitely recommend that you check it out on March 31st when it comes out. And then the last thriller that I have to share with you guys is the one that I'm currently reading. I have about 100 pages left in it, and it's My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. This book I literally cannot put down. I think it's going to be a 4-star read for me, depending on how it ends. If it has a weird ending, I might rate it lower, but I am really enjoying this book. I have never read an Alice Feeney book, but I was very much addicted to her TV show on Netflix, which was His and Hers, which is another book that she has written that was adapted into a Netflix show. But this book follows a woman, and she has just moved to this small town with her husband, and they bought this really large, beautiful house there, and one day she is on a run. She comes back from her run, her key does not fit into the lock on the door, and a different woman opens the door and claims to be her, and even her husband is going along with this and saying that this is his wife, not the actual wife that's standing outside of the door. And then there's another point of view in this book of a woman 6 months prior who inherits the house from her grandmother who just passed away, and you kind of see everything that she does with the house. And I am just very intrigued to see how this book is going to end. The chapters are very short, and every single chapter ends on a cliffhanger, and so I just am excited to see where this ends up. And it is definitely a very fast-paced, very fun thriller. and I definitely recommend from where I'm at right now, but we will see once it ends. I am currently making a reading vlog of this, so my final thoughts will be up in that reading vlog when that comes out. So now I'm going to get into the historical fiction books that I have completed this year, and I've read 2 historical fiction books, and they were both incredible reads. So I'm very excited to continue to read historical fiction, and I'm definitely falling in love with this genre. So the first historical fiction book that I read was The Frozen River by Ariel Lawn. I loved this book so much. I ended up rating it 4.5 stars. I docked half a star just because it was a little slow in some parts. But other than that, like, this was such a beautiful and kind of heart-wrenching novel to read. It follows our main character, Martha Ballard, and she is a midwife in the late 1700s, and they are in the midst of the winter time. Follow her taking care of her patients and going to her deliveries, delivering mothers. And Martha Ballard is actually a real person, and something about her is that none of her mothers have passed away in a delivery, and that's actually a true fact of her, which is something so incredible and just so incredible of that time. But basically, one day this dead body shows up in the frozen river, and she is called upon to look at the body. But then there's also this new male doctor in town who is supposed to be this prestigious doctor. He went to Harvard Medical School, and she is just a midwife. And you essentially kind of go on this journey of her going on all these trials of just trying to be a woman in this time and fighting for her own rights, fighting for the rights of her patients. And it just was so beautiful. And something about books like these is that they teach you about so much, even in our current time period, on what we need to do to continue to move forward and move forward in society. Because there are women like Martha Ballard who fought for us in those times, and we need to continue to keep fighting. And these books have just truly inspired me to keep doing so. And so I loved it. 4.5 stars. I cannot stop thinking about it. It is a wonderful book. And then the second historical fiction book that I read, I absolutely loved. It is now my most favorite book of all time, and that is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I cannot believe it took me so long to read this book, but honestly, I am glad that I waited just because I wasn't totally into historical fiction novels like in the years past. So I'm glad that I'm finally like into them and want to read them. I ended up buying the 10th anniversary Barnes & Noble edition because it is just so beautiful. You have these really beautiful sprayed edges. You have these beautiful Paris end pages. And it just is a stunning book, and I love this book so much. I cannot wait to display it on my future bookshelves whenever we move again. And oh my gosh, just loved this book so much. I will not stop raving about this book. Kristen Hanna has become one of my most favorite authors. This is a 6-star read for me, a top tier read for me. I will be recommending and screaming about this book from the rooftops forever because it was just so beautiful and it affected me that much. But if you've not read The Nightingale, it is about 2 sisters who are living in France during the Nazi occupation, and they both lead very different lives, and they both kind of have different stories based on their family trauma, based on their ages, and you just see them go through this really terrible time with the Nazi occupation and how they choose to deal with it. The youngest sister is way more rebellious and joins the rebellion, and the older sister is kind of been more trying to kind of like conform to what is happening to protect her daughter. But then you see her kind of come into her own, and oh my gosh, it is just such a beautiful novel. It is so heart-wrenching. It was such a good time for me to read this because there are similar things happening right now in the United States of what was happening in this book and in that time. And it just taught me so much about what is going on and how horrible the events are. And just, I'm honestly about to start crying thinking about it because that is how much I love this book. And 10 out of 10 recommend. You definitely need to read this book, and it is the best historical fiction, the best book that I have literally ever read. Okay, so next I want to talk about the romance books that I read. I read 2 regular romance books, and then I read 2 novella romance books, and I do count those toward my reading goal just because I did read them, but they are less than 100 pages, so some people might think it's cheating. I think that it is a good way to balance out the really long books that you read and to get a few shorter books in there so that way you can get to your reading goals that you want to get to. But let's talk about the romance books that I read. So the first one that I read was Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles, and I ended up rating this book 3.75 stars. I really liked it. I did think some parts were just a little bit cheesy, and so that's why I docked a few stars there. This one follows a woman who is returning to her small town where she actually lost all of her family in this really big fire when she was younger. and she is returning to the town. She's actually going back to her old house and trying to renovate it after the fire. And then the male main character in this book, he's one of the guys helping to renovate her house, but then also he has like a past in law enforcement, and there is sort of like a mystery slash murder going on in this story, so it's a romantic suspense. And I really liked that part of the story. I thought it was very fun to read and made the romance even more interesting. I've actually never read a romantic suspense story, so I definitely want to continue to read this series in the springtime because I did really like it. And I've heard that the ones after it are even better. So I did really enjoy this book. Some parts were cheesy, some parts were a little far-fetched. But other than that, I thought it was very fun. And this cover is just absolutely stunning. I think it'll look so cute whenever I buy more to go on my bookshelf. But yeah, it was very cute and definitely recommend if you want like a fun, spicy, romantic suspense book to read for the springtime. And then the next romance book that I read was one that I was absolutely obsessed with, and it is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. This book, everyone is literally obsessed with this book, and for good reason. It's not this like literary masterpiece of a book. It is just a fun, spicy hockey romance. They are trying to kind of navigate their relationship in a world that does not accept gay men, but they are on rival teams. They've had this whole rivalry going on for years and years and years, and you follow them throughout each year and basically how they've kind of navigated it. And they are such a cute little couple. They have kind of just like ignored their feelings forever. They still think that they're both like into girls and are trying to navigate that as well. And one of our main characters is actually from Russia. All of his family lives in Russia. In Russia, at least in this book, I actually haven't really researched too much of it myself, but they don't accept LGBTQ plus people, and so he is really struggling with that in this book, and they're struggling with the rivalry. It brings in a lot of money for them, and so they're just trying to figure all that out, figure their feelings. And I thought it was such a sweet and cute read. I cannot read the second book about them, and I need to watch the TV show because I've heard that it is nothing but amazing. I ended up rating this book 4.5 stars. I actually found a mistake in this book, and sometimes that pulls you from the story a little bit, but other than that, really, really love this book, and I cannot wait to continue the series. And then the two novellas that I read, they were part of the like second chance romance books that are available through Amazon. Basically, like every single holiday, Amazon releases like 6 novellas that are kind of like fun little spicy novellas from our favorite authors, and they are available to read on Amazon through Amazon Prime. And I read 2 of them. I read Accidentally Yours and Time Will Tell. Accidentally Yours was by Christina Lauren, and then Time Will Tell was by Hannah Bonham Young. And I enjoyed both of them. I think I rated Accidentally Yours 4 stars and Time Will Tell 3 stars. Accidentally Yours was a workplace romance, and then Time Will Tell was a kind of like pen pal type romance. The two characters were connected from their past, and they found each other because their grandparents knew each other, but one of them lives in the United States, one of them lives in the United Kingdom, and they kind of become pen pals through that. Both these books, the characters kind of fall in love over like emails, which is really cute and really fun to read. But yeah, they were just really fun little novellas to read, and if you need something to help with your reading goals, I highly recommend these novellas because there are 6 of them. You can read them really quick, and they're really fun, and you can listen to all of them on audio within like an hour or 2, so definitely something to listen to, maybe if you need something for like a little road trip or something. Very fun, and I definitely recommend them. And then the last genre that I read was Romantasy, and I read a few good ones in the Romantasy genre. First Romantasy book that I read was The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. I really enjoyed this romantasy. It is actually a standalone romantasy, and it follows our female main character, Gray, and she is a well, which basically helps siphon magic for a mage that she is paired with. And the mage that she is paired with is her childhood best friend, Kier, and they have been together for a very long time. They are still just best friends, but they have been yearning for each other their whole lives. They are constantly stuck in these wars within ever their kingdoms. And then the big storyline that is going on in this is that the island of Locke needs to be raised for one kingdom to kind of have all the magic, and so that's why they're always at war with each other. And our female main character has a lot of family history that has to do with the island of Locke, and so you kind of go on this journey with her, and there is like found family involved, and you see the couple yearning for each other. And I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very fun to read around the Valentine's Day season, and definitely recommend this book. I rated it 4 stars. There were some parts that were a little slow with it, but other than that, I really liked it, and I definitely recommend it. And then the last 2 books were in the Otation Chronicles, which are The Lies of Lena and The Sins of Silas. This is a dark romantasy series, and the first 2 books are the only books that are out so far. There is a novella after the second book that I still need to read, but I loved these two books so much. The first book is traditionally published, and then the second book will be traditionally published later on, but it is on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read it. I am obsessed with this series. Like I kind of mentioned before, like a book that's like a literary masterpiece, like it's not a literary masterpiece. It's definitely kind of giving like book talk romantasy, but I was still obsessed with this series and I could not put these two books down. It follows our main character, Alina, and she is a mage, but in the world that she is living in, mages are basically banned. So her and her mother have been in hiding their whole lives and kind of training in secret and making these elixirs to sell because they are definitely in the poorer parts of the nation. But one day she is out selling these elixirs with her mom, and she meets this boy. In the beginning, they are 16 years old in this book, but essentially she meets another 16-year-old boy and they instantly have a connection. They instantly fall in love, but he has secrets of his own. And they fall in love over a course of a few years, and then one day there is a kill order put on all the mages, and she has to run away and give him no answers as to why she has run away. And I loved this story so much. There is so much found family in this book, and I love found family in a romantasy. You go on this crazy journey with them. It is definitely going to become one of my favorite series, I think, and I am so excited for the third book to come out. Definitely check your trigger warnings if you plan to read this series. There is a lot of dark things that happen in these two books, but other than that, I highly recommend it, and I loved it so much. I rated the first book 4.5 stars, and the second book 5 stars. Again, definitely nothing crazy with like world building or anything incredible going on in the series. It's just fun to read, and I'm rating it based off the vibes. So love this, highly recommend. And yeah, those are all the books that I read in January and February. I hope that you found a book that you want to read as well, and I hope you have a great rest of the day reading. Bye!